Hi, today I'm going to show you three different methods of propagating Rex begonia. So there's three main methods that you can use. One would be to use leaf cuttings, one would be to use a thicker stem cutting, and finally to use seeds. So before we get started, you need to have a few tools that you're going to use. You need a sharp knife, something that's non-serrated. You're going to need some scissors or shears. These are herb scissors. And you need a cutting board as well. And you want to make sure that your tools and your cutting board are nice and clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol. Now you could use antibacterial spray or something like that. All I'm doing is just wetting a paper towel, and this was a clean cutting board, so I don't have to clean that, but my scissors, my herb scissors, I'm cleaning the blades, making sure not to cut yourself, and again with the blade on the knife, nice and clean. Okay, so the first method is for using stem cutting, or sorry, leaf cutting. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a nice healthy plant. Now this is a Rex begonia. You can see there's no flowers on this one. It's got very colorful leaves, and people like to use this as a house plant, but you can also grow them in your garden. They just need more shade than sun, as well as a lot of humidity. So you take a healthy leaf, so you check out something that's, in this case, I'm going to use something that's not the largest leaf off the plant. I'm going to use something that's a little smaller. And I'm going to look to see if I can find something that is something that's smaller. Here's one here. I'm going to cut that off. Now when I cut it, hope you can see, it's cut on an angle. Now with that cutting, the reason why I do that is because it gives more surface area on the cutting to produce roots from. On the plant itself, leaving an angled cut is also going to allow the water that may come on it from rain or from watering not to pool in one flat surface. So having it on an angle prevents mold or mildew or bacterial growth on the plant. All right, now we've got leaf. I'm actually going to put the leaf into some potting material or growth media. All I've got here is just some potting soil that I've pre-moistened. You want to make it moist enough so that when you grab it, you can actually clump it into balls and it will hold together. But you don't want it so wet that if you were to squeeze it, that water would actually come out. So nothing is coming out of that. It's not that damp. It's important to keep it damp so that the roots can grow. And you're going to have to moisten it on a daily basis. Usually what I like to do is use a hand spray mister. So I just have something like this and I spray it onto the surface once I have some leaf cuttings in there. Okay, so here's my first leaf cutting, and all you have to do is very simple. Put the stem in on about a 45-degree angle and leave it under the dirt and leave the leaf on top. It can sit right on top. Again, you're going to just put it into the dirt, let it sit nice and moist in there, and probably in another 2-3 weeks you're going to be able to see that there's actually roots. Now the way you would check that is if you were to lift up on that stem that you've planted and just lightly pull on it. If you get resistance, then you know that there's actually roots forming. But right now, there's no resistance because obviously there's no roots. Now if I were to take another leaf cutting, okay, again cutting on an angle, what we could do, we could take this root and we could help it by putting some root growth hormone on it. Now you can buy some root stimulator. I have this stuff, it's called Stim Root. I got it at a hardware store. You can get it at Canadian Tire, Home Depot, Home Hardware, that kind of thing. Any place where they sell plants, garden center. And there's different types, of course. For example, there is some that is for softwood, semi-hardwood, and hardwood if you're planning on growing some other types of vegetation. So in this case, we would get something that's for softwood or indoor plants. Now, what I've done is I've already put some of this powder, hopefully you can see it, it's kind of a yellow powder, and I put it onto a piece of paper towel. So I'm going to take the stem and just dab it into the potting or the root stimulation, and you're going to see it's just on the end of that. And we're going to do the exact same thing and put it into the soil on about a 45-degree angle. Now that's going to help that leaf to end up producing some roots on the end of the stem or the petiole. Now if you didn't want to use the chemicals, if you didn't want to use that particular thing, another thing you can use is just regular honey. So what you do is use a mixture of this. It's about 3-to-1 water to honey. You would mix it up in boiling water. It's best if you can get non-pasteurized or non-processed honey, but this would also do. The reason why this works is because it has enzymes in it that come from when the bees make the honey, and there's also, it's an antifungal, antibacterial, so it helps keep the new roots protected as they are growing in your growth media. All right, so that's two ways of doing just a root or rooting leaves. Another thing you could do is you can take another leaf, and if you look, you can see that these leaves have veins in them. They're pretty big veins. So I'm just going to look for one that's a decent size and it's got some decent veins on it. So I'm just going to cut this one off. Again, I'm cutting it on an angle. And before, where we had the petiole or the stem portion, I'm going to actually cut that off. So if we cut that here, and if you look closely, now you can see the main veins. So there's a main vein here and here and here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and put that upside down basically on the cutting board, and I'm going to cut away the portions that I don't want from the bottom. Now I've got a section here, and I'm going to cut in between the two main veins there. There's one wedge. I'm going to cut in between these two main veins as well, and keep on going through and cutting the main vein so that I've got one main vein per wedge. And just keep going through until you've got as many as you can get from one leaf. There we go. So now I've got 5 here. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to cut the top part of that leaf off, because we don't need a lot of energy going to the other parts of the leaf. So we're ending up with these kind of triangular shape or wedges that we're going to be able to put into the dirt or the growing media. And finally that one. Okay, So I've got 5 of them there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my root stimulation chemical and just dab it onto the ends of these wedges. And you could dampen the leaf that you've cut, and that would help this material stick to it. But we've just cut them, so there is a bit of wetness to the edges as well. Alright, so now I've got my 5 pieces of leaves, and I'm going to stick them directly into the dirt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on this side and stick them in like that. I'll get a better angle for you. And like so. Okay, so I've got 5 wedges on that side, and I've got 2 leaves that are from the stems on this side. So now what's going to happen is we're going to let that sit, and again, probably 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to start seeing some root growth on these 2. So we've got 2 different ways of doing leaf cuttings to propagate the Rex begonia. All right, now another method that we can use is using a thicker stem begonia. Now I've got a different plant here. This one actually has excuse me, has flowers on it. Now if you look, actually you can see right at the front there's the kind of a little yellowish color thing, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. But right now what I want to do is I want to try and find a stem that is thicker like this one, and I want to get something that's got, you know, 2 or 3 leaves on the top, something that I can use to basically, I'm going to have to set this down over here for a second, and I'm going to pick something that I can take from the top. And again, sorry I'm going to do this off screen, but this one here, for example, is now, I've cut it on an angle again, you can see. And the idea again is that we're going to try and grow some roots from this. Now you can see that there are some nodes on here. There was a leaf that's been broken off, but it's possible that we can get either roots growing from different spots like that, or as it gets bigger, then we're going to have some that have leaves that are growing from these kind of nodes. So I might even take this one off as well, because we don't need all that much. I've got 2 main leaves and some smaller leaves growing up from the top. Now all we need for this one, again, we could use the root stimulator and growth hormone, and we can just put that on the tip of this and put it into just a jar of water. We don't want any leaves to be in that water itself, because if you did, then they would start to rot, and that would of course not be good for the growth of the plant. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to leave this in maybe 2-3 weeks, and you're going to start to see root growth just coming off the bottom of that stem. Once you have a good healthy group of roots growing on there, then you can take it out and put it into some potting soil. So that would be after maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Finally, the last method is by growing from seed. Now unfortunately, this is kind of early into, we're halfway through the summer, so these ones haven't really turned into full seed pods properly, but there are male and female flowers, and what would happen is the pistil contains the ovary, and so when they're pollinated by bees or insects, or you can even do it by hand, When you pollinate, then these seed pods, it has an ovary on the inside, and it becomes fertilized or pollinated. And what will happen is these will start to enlarge, and that's the ovaries that are enlarging. So the ovule inside is now getting larger because it's starting to grow seeds on the inside. So what we would do is we would typically wait until these little seed pods start to go brown, and they would, as you can see, there's still some color on them, and the stamens on the top. The the pods will start to turn brown. This stem part here would start to turn brown and dry up and shrivel, and eventually this would fall off of the plant and you could collect these. What we could do is put them into a brown paper bag or whatever, a paper bag, and we could use that once they open up to collect the seeds. I'm going to just try and open this up to see if there's any kind of development in there. You can kind of see it, but the seeds are very, very small. It's almost like a little tiny pepper, like black pepper flakes. So basically inside there, that's where you would see the seeds starting to grow. This is not mature enough, it hasn't dried out. And oh, maybe there is some that came out. Yeah, so that could be, you know, a seed that's starting to form. And what we would do is just collect all those seeds and then sprinkle them into the dirt again, or the growing media, and just maybe make rows up and down like this. Put the seeds on there, but don't cover them up. Now we need to have them germinate, so we definitely need to have sunlight and warmth, and then we could again use the mister like I said before and just spray onto the top of the seed. So in about a week or two you might see some growth from the seed. It's going to start to grow some stems and some roots. Now you want to keep this warm and with light. You could even cover them up with a plastic sheet or a glass sheet, and that's going to help keep the condensation and keep the moisture up. But other than that, it's just waiting for them to sprout, and then you can transplant them into separate pots. Okay, so that's basically it. 3 different methods for propagating Rex begonias. Thanks very much.